There is a aversion to Islam, and if a black person is a Muslim as well, then you will get double jeopardy here.
I am a revert to Islam of just over 21 years.
I've been Muslim for about, for about 9 years now.
For me, as a person of colour, race means discrimination. Perhaps for someone who defines what it is, and that is the accepted norm, it means power.
I personally would define racism as ignorance.
It is a really difficult subject to discuss, because sometimes it is so painful that you try to find the right words to describe it.
I've never felt, I was born in England, I know no other country. This is my country, I was born and brought up here. But I've never felt part of it, because I was never made to feel part of it.
I believe Islamophobia is another form of ignorance. It's people believing the media. It's people having maybe no contact with real Muslims and real people, and therefore are making up their own mind based on stigmas.
I guess Islamophobia is someone looking at the religion of Islam, not having much information about the religion of Islam, and making judgments.
Islamophobia is again another form of ignorance.
Islamophobia and racism are virtually the same thing. It's just a different name, like a different form, outer form, but the meaning behind the form is the same.
Definitely feel British society is Islamophobic. But once again, I believe that it's down to ignorance, especially after 9/11 and, what that portrayed Muslims killing, people, and then obviously the bombings in the UK. So I believe that people have got scared, and because they don't understand Islam, they get scared of what they don't know.
They would really have a field day if they could fuse black and Islam. Black is already dirty, and now you have Islam, so black and Islam is double dirty.
From my own experience as a Muslim, as a black man, I would say that I understood perhaps many of the problems that the Muslim community, or I would say the immigrant Muslim community, are going through long before they ever went through it. Many issues, Muslims complain of stop and search, of profiling. Well, as a black man, I went through that long before I even became a Muslim.
Of Islamophobia and racism, I would say as a whole racism would be more hurtful.
I'd say racism definitely hurts more. I mean, have I experienced Islamophobia? I haven't, no, I haven't. I have to be honest, personally. But then again, perhaps that's because I don't look like a Muslim.
My reaction to anti-black racism is more intense than Islamophobia.
There are similarities between, say, anti-blackism and Islamophobia, but there are areas that do essentially depart, in the sense of immigrant Muslims are seen to perhaps seen to be superior to revert Muslims, and especially to black revert Muslims.
So because Islam is dealing with the mind instead of the skin, there is no such thing as a black Muslim or a white Muslim, but because we are in a system of racism, they apply race to everything, including Islam.
Within the Muslim community here in the UK, there is a race problem.
I've grown up with racism in my life, but the most extreme racism I've had in my adult life has been from so-called Muslims. Overt and veiled. With people who are aware of their racism and others who didn't have a clue. They felt that their behavior was acceptable.
I came into Islam to get away from rubbish, and I came into Islam and found even more rubbish. Even more racism perpetrated against me. It was more blatant than anything else.
Whenever I go to like a sisters gathering and it's just women and women are taking off their hijab, Afro-Caribbean women and you know, people from like maybe West Africa are always the last to take off their hijab. They're always the last to take off their hijab. And on many occasions they don't take off their hijab. And when they do take off their hijab, there's a whole backstory as to why their hair is so bushy or why their hair is so tough, or maybe they dyed it so much so that, you know, and I'm like, somewhere something's going wrong because people are feeling inferior.
I know I can go to a local mosque and people will look at me and call me Carla, Blackie.
When I first came to Islam, I was under the impression that it was a huge family and that I would feel accepted and that I would feel loved and that I would have a sense of achievement or something in my life that maybe I was missing. And I realised once I went out into the wider community that really wasn't the case.
I actually haven't brought my children to many mosques and keep them exposed in many mosques and stuff like that growing up. I didn't do it because maybe I have some scarring from my racist experience growing up. But I did not want my children's first experience of racism and prejudice to come from brown people who say Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah. I did not want that to be the first experience.